University of Oxford being one of nonetheless, such acts by the townspeople prompted the university to suspend its operation for a couple of years in protest. Some of the students and masters, now with no university and also fearing for their life, decided to leave Oxford for a newly emerging studium generale at another city, this city being Cambridge, and these people being the backbone for the foundation of the University of Cambridge. So that's how Cambridge got founded, right? Well, not quite. For example, not all students and faculty left to Cambridge from Oxford. A large portion of them went to the much closer town of Reading, where they hoped to wait out until the University of Oxford reopened. So that begs the question of why did some students and faculty decide to relocate all the way east to Cambridge? Well, turns out not even the geniuses that came out of the University of Cambridge for the past 8 centuries could figure out a definitive answer to this question. However, there are a couple of details that may shine some light on this. For one, Cambridge was a well-established town in England, gaining its charter in the early 12th century. It also was quite wealthy due to it being the center of the trade in the Fenlands ever since the Viking era, and had a legal monopoly over all waterborne traffic. This combined with the fact that around it there were numerous religious establishments which are vital for the creation of a medieval university, it seems like Cambridge as a town was a very good candidate for the formation of a second English studium generale. But this still doesn't explain why the masters and students from Oxford traveled so far east when a much closer town of Northampton was arguably an even better fertile ground for the creation of a university than Cambridge was. Maybe we have to look at it from the point that these people leaving Oxford didn't want to establish a new university, but if they didn't want to establish a new university and just wait until Oxford was reopened, why not go to Reading with all the other students and faculty or any other much closer town to Oxford than Cambridge? To answer that, we have to look at the people that actually came to Cambridge from Oxford. Turns out that at least 3 masters that taught at Oxford were from Cambridge, the most notable of which was John Grimm, a Master of the Scholars at Oxford, which is a fancy way of saying that he was the Chancellor of the University of Oxford before the suspension. So it might as well have been that the masters simply went back home to wait out the suspension of the University of Oxford, with some students and other faculty members following them along as to establish a temporary colony where masters could continue to teach and students could continue to learn. Then, after the 5-year suspension of Oxford ended, many of the students and faculty returned, but not all. Why didn't everyone return back to Oxford is another question there isn't a good answer to. It is probably a combination of several possible factors, including better prices for housing that could be gotten thanks to the contact of the several masters that were from Cambridge, the aid given by the local Bishop of Ely, and the fact that the university had a high future possibility for endowment as the city had a thriving merchant community and a Jewish community that could give out potential loans. Plus, over the course of the 5 years as masters taught in the town, the University of Oxford colony at Cambridge attracted many new students and faculty from Eastern England, as many of these people didn't want to travel all the way to Oxford. All these factors resulted in that the masters and students which decided to stay at Cambridge after Oxford reopened quickly established a growing center of higher education. This center was then boosted in population by the establishment of the Franciscan House in 1225. After that, only 6 years later, the University of Cambridge was officially founded, receiving a royal charter from Henry III, which allowed the university to officially act as an independent legal corporation within the town. Funnily enough, even though the University of Oxford acted as an independent entity for almost a century now, it didn't receive its royal charter until 1248, 17 years after Cambridge. So as royal charters are concerned, Cambridge is technically older than Oxford. During the 1250s, a new problem started to emerge not just in Cambridge but also at Oxford. This problem was a tribalistic division of the students and faculty predicated on geographical differences, meaning the Northerners hated the Southerners and vice versa. At Cambridge, this culminated in the 1260 riots where Southerners attacked the Northerners who promptly retaliated. After this, the Northerners from both universities left to Northampton where they started to set up their own university, which by the way is technically the 3rd ever university founded in England. But these Northerners made a giant mistake. They involved themselves heavily with the Second Barons' War against Henry III, who besieged Northampton and won. he promptly dissolved the new university and banned any new establishment of a university in Northampton ever again, which by the way had to be officially repealed in 2005 so the current University of Northampton could exist. With this defeat, the Northern students returned back to their respective universities at Cambridge and Oxford. To avoid something like this ever happening again, Cambridge and Oxford both imposed an oath that they will not let anyone establish any new universities in England or let any masters teach anywhere in England outside of the two already existing universities, which is, by the way, the reason why no new English university was established until the 19th century. When it came to student and faculty housing at Cambridge, early on most housing was provided by hostels and also some halls. Now yes, these were the cheapest accommodations in the city, but they weren't as bad as you're picturing. Some of the largest hostels had their own halls, chapels, libraries, and even galleries. Plus, they were, to the dismay of the townspeople, what we would now call rent controlled by the decree of the king, meaning no price gouging could happen. Later on, just as with Oxford halls, these Cambridge hostels would either die out or evolve into today's colleges. The life in these early colleges and hostels wasn't as peaceful as one may think. Many of these institutions were heavily divided depending on the subject, meaning one hostel may have only had arts students / masters while another had only law students and masters. These divides resulted in even more tribalism than already present at the university, and fights amongst different hostels and colleges was a common occurrence on the streets of Cambridge. For example, in 1500, a short account speaks of a 2-day battle between a hostel and the Christ College, all while St. Clement's hostel decided to join in, picking a fight, quote, against all comers. Because why not? In another similar instance in 1521, the scholars of Garrett Hostel, today part of Trinity College, decided with some other hostels to organize a raid against Gonville Hall, today part of Gonville Caius College. During their initial attack, they were unable to penetrate into the hall and so proceeded to start a fire at the west gate of the hall, hoping to burn down the gate. This plan proved effective and they stormed the hall, where they looted the premises and drank all the liquor they could find. Whatever liquor they were unable to finish, they simply poured out. The colleges and hostels also had a prevalent culture of hazing amongst the members. For example, a punishment for breaking the hostel's rules may have involved something called sconcing, where the accused would be forced to drink from a large vessel called a sconce pot that could have been as large as 2.1 liters and filled to the brim with beer. However, sometimes to mess with the people, the beer would be salted or the pot would be filled with other kinds of unsavory liquids. If the accused finished the pot in one go, he wouldn't have to pay a fine for breaking the rules. However, if he didn't, he either paid the fine or was forced to pay for the entirety of the drink in the vessel. Even though sconcing was initially used as a punishment, later on it evolved into more of a drinking game, which is still allegedly practiced in some university circles today. Going into the 14th century, there isn't that much we know about the university other than that it expanded in scope and many new colleges were established. Up until now, outside of the hostels, there was just one college at Cambridge, and that was the Peterhouse. But in the 14th century, the number of colleges expanded drastically, going from only one college in 1320 to 8 colleges in 1352. This growth would, however, be stopped just as in Oxford by the Black Death and its frequent resurgences the following decades. It devastated Cambridge, killing the entire castle side of the river and as much as half of the town's population. However, that wasn't the only bad news for Cambridge during this century. The emergence of the Black Death and the death that came with it created many socio-economic and political changes across England, most of them favoring the lower classes. Obviously, the aristocracy wasn't happy with this and tried everything they could to curb back these changes. In response, the peasants rebelled all over England, starting what is now aptly named the Peasants' Revolt. During this tumultuous time, the Cambridge's town and gown problem reached its height. In 1381, as the rest of England was rebelling, the townspeople decided it was time to deal with these annoying and pretentious students and masters of the so-called University of Cambridge. They gathered in a mob, elected leaders, and went on a rampage. First they looted and destroyed a house of a high-ranking master at the university, and then they set their sights on the Corpus Christi College. They looted the old court of the college and burned any books, charters, and endowment papers they could find. The rioters then turned to assaulting other properties of the university until they made their way to the the Great St. Mary's Church, where a common chest of the university was kept. They took the entire contents of the chest, including papal bulls, university charters, and many other documents. They did the same with another university chest kept at the Carmelite Friary. After 2 days of pillaging the university, all the documents and books gotten by the townspeople were promptly burned in a ceremonial bonfire set up in the market square. This rioting, along with the entire peasants' revolt, was eventually put down, but the damage was already done. Many books and documents were destroyed and much of the university damaged. In fact, it is mainly due to this 1381 riot that we don't know much about the early history of the University of Cambridge. Many documents were destroyed, and therefore it is hard to tell what actually happened at the university before the 14th century. Nonetheless, the townspeople were punished by the king, and the university received many new rights, giving it a lot more control over the town's trade, politics, and overall economy, to ensure that no riot in the future can grow as strong as the 1381 did. That is where I will end this video. Hope you enjoyed my somewhat continuation of the Oxford video. I thought it might be interesting to look into the University of Cambridge history after finding out how interesting the Oxford history was. Nonetheless, I would officially love to thank the staggering amount of you that came here from Oversimplified. You tripled my subscriber count in less than a month. Thank you so much for subscribing and giving my channel a try. As always, there's more information and clarifications in the description, and all my scripts with sources are available for free on my Patreon, which, by the way, you can also use to support me because YouTube ad revenue, unsurprisingly, not so great. Till next time, my name is Emlazer.